OCT.
And I'm Kyle Gordon, and we're introducing Insane Ian.
Achievement Unlocked!
Fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
Greetings, Internet, and welcome to A Comedy Musician Reviews. My name is Insane Ian, and I'm a comedy musician and comedy music fan, and on this show I review comedy music albums from the perspective of a comedy musician. Because that's who I am, and that's what I do, and that's what this is, and that's why you're here. And today, I'm reviewing On Company Time, the self-titled debut album from OCT. If this is your first time joining us, yes, I am a comedy musician and I exclusively review comedy music because that is where my field of expertise is. What this will be is a track-by-track breakdown of the album, so get ready for some in-depth comedy music analysis. I'll be talking about each track individually, my favorite parts of each song, and how the album works as a whole. If you like that sort of thing, please like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things to feed the algorithm and get more eyeballs onto these videos. And if you really want to help the channel out, consider supporting me on Patreon, where you get these videos early, hear my comedy music early, and all sorts of other perks. Anyway, all of that out of the way, strap in, folks. Let's take a look at On Company Time. First and foremost, this album was released on January 9th, 2026. Why then am I reviewing it almost 3 whole months later? Well, I had surgery that month and was doing limited videos at the time, and then after my recovery I was prepping for my own comedy music gig in March in Minneapolis, where I was the music guest of honor at MarsCon. After which, I promptly caught COVID. But now that that's over with, here we are. Also, some of these songs I've already technically reviewed when I reacted to the music video. While those were my first impressions, I will likely go into a bit more detail here. But enough preamble, let's dive into the album with the first track.
Completely frictionless.
Peter, Luke, Vinny.
Hi, Gary.
Come in, guys. Sit down. Listen, I'll be honest with you. Like, real talk, I didn't want to hire you guys.
That makes sense.
But here we are, and so here's the deal.
Up first is one of 2 sketches that bookend the album. Here we have Luke, Peter, and Vinny, aka OCT, being hired by Gary V. It's a short sketch that sets up the true-life fact that these guys met while working together at the same place, but also the album idea that all of these songs were written on company time at this new job. To be perfectly honest, I don't think this sketch works. Now, I don't want to start off negatively here, but I have some creative issues with it from a comedy standpoint. Firstly, I had to look up who Gary V was, as I'd never heard of him. He's apparently a CEO and multi-hyphenate of best-selling author, radio host, and entrepreneur, but given his placement on this album, I figured he was just a local New York comedian like the other guests on the album. Secondly, while the conceit that this sketch sets up that these songs you're about to hear were written on company time, this immediately, to me anyways, makes me think that while it obviously isn't a concept album, at least one of these songs would be about workplace shenanigans. It's not like OCT doesn't have any songs like that. In fact, one of the first shorts posted to their YouTube channel is Peter, solo, singing a short acoustic song that even contains this album's title.
Boss make $1 and I make a dime. That's why I poop on company time. They can't get mad if I miss a deadline, if I'm sitting on this porcelain throne of mine.
Ideally, I would have liked the first track to have been an expanded version of that song, but that may just be me. But the idea that sketch sets up would certainly lend itself to that. Instead, it's just a short sketch of 3 very excited guys who seem to be eager to work for Gary V, who are then warned to not screw around. It's not bad, but it's also not really funny. And sadly, I tend to skip it on re-listens of the album. That said, that's the only track I skip. Moving on.
Don't ever let them touch my clogs. You can take my cash, you could burn my house, you could force feed trash. I'd let you kick my balls while I chewed on glass before I even thought about letting someone touch my clogs.
Kicking off the music portion of the album is the first track I and many folks first heard from OCT, the synth-heavy Don't Touch My Clogs. This track exudes 80s energy and introduces us to a lot of the earmarks we'll be hearing from the band throughout this album. Luke, who does most of the heavy lifting in this song as lead vocalist, gives us the very first "uh-huh" right at the jump of the song, an ad-lib that will become like his signature on many of OCT's more popular tracks. This might be a good time to introduce the "uh-huh" meter. We actually get two "uh-huhs" in this song, one at the beginning of each verse. The song itself tells the story of a man who has been gifted a pair of clogs that have apparently been in his family for generations, while the verses describe the story of how it was passed from grandfather to son, all played by members of the band in the music video. The choruses act as a list song trope, where the singer describes all the things he'd rather have done to himself to prevent someone touching the family clogs. List songs are a great vehicle for comedy music. It's a way to fit in a number of gags in a short amount of time, ramping up the ridiculousness of each thing. In fact, I have to wonder if the song isn't inspired in some way by Weird Al, who once did a song called "Don't Wear Those Shoes," that listed all the things his partner could do to him in lieu of wearing some apparently awful shoes. Shoes that actually are never described in the song, ironically. As a comedy song, there are a ton of great lines in this track, but also some comedy can be found in the sheer delivery of lines. The way Luke rhymes "once" with "parents" and "clogs" with both "socks" and "yours" is hilarious. An element that pops up in a lot of comedy songs is adjusting the way a word is pronounced so that it rhymes with the line before. Some purists might scoff at this crowbar's attempt at making a word fit, but honestly, all's fair game in comedy music. That said, my favorite section is probably in the second chorus, where Luke is suggesting new torment to endure, up to Vinny's key change ramping up the ridiculousness of the clogs themselves.
You could eat my lunch and you could knock me out with a 1-inch punch and make me drink your sweat from a dirty sponge. You'd have to shoot me dead before I ever let you touch my clogs. It's my purpose in life to keep them safe until my child is at least 25. Then I will bless the clogs of them and they'll wear them with pride. And every single day from then they'll make sure no one is touched.
The line, "They're the one thing I love, the only thing that makes me sure there's a God up above," is exquisite heightened comedy. Also, Vinny's explosive vocals in this section highlight what a powerhouse he is in the band. While all three members of OCT are great singers, Vinny is certainly the standout in the pipes department, and he gets ample opportunities to flex those skills over the course of the album. Ideally, I would have liked each separate chorus to be a different list of things the singer would rather have done to them instead of just letting someone touch his clogs, providing more comedy and an even further chance at escalating to a ludicrous amount. However, I understand the repetition of the first chorus again as the last, as it gives a good focal point to come back to, as well as a good place for Vinny and Peter to do some great vocal runs of that chorus at the end.
Pop, baby, you know they going crazy. It's like a dip in the guacamole, baby. When you pop, baby, you know they going crazy. Nobody pops the pop like we do, baby.
The next track on the album is the first new song that hadn't had a single release or music video before the album dropped, though the music video did get posted the same day the album was released. And of course, the band also teased it on socials before it came out. This time, we're treated to a humorous dance song that may or may not be K-pop inspired called Pop Pop. And the name is apt, as you will hear that phrase a ridiculous amount during the run of the song. A dance song is not new ground for comedy music, as making up a dance is a good minefield for humorous exploits. But what makes OCT's version unique is the presentation. Just listening to the song, it's hard to decipher what exactly the dance is, just that you pop pop. Speaking of deciphering, the lyrics themselves are a mishmash of nonsense, once again pulling in the weird pronunciation tactics of the previous song, rhyming right, nice, and advice with twice, all while under-enunciating the words lends a weird sense of confusion to the already confusing dance. Nice and advice just sound like nigh and advi, yet twice is fully pronounced. And then repeated with the rhymes of sanitize, and appetize, dropping the R's to now rhyme with can of Sprite.
Working up the hands on the thighs to get it poppin' like a jalapeno appetize. And if you want it, you can pop it like a can of Sprite. But first you gotta get your body rockin' side to side.
As far as the song itself, this is probably the best example of a song that fully highlights each member of the band's vocals. Everyone gets a moment to shine here, and while they don't ever stick to the same format of who does what in a song, I think this song shows each of their strengths. Luke takes the verses here, followed by Peter handling the pre-chorus, and finally Vinny belting out the chorus itself before the whole process repeats again for the second verse. However, this is another place where I feel switching things up would have given more room for more jokes. Instead, while Luke's second verse is brand new, Peter's pre-chorus and Vinny's chorus are exactly the same as before. Things like this are a missed opportunity in my eyes, as I personally like when comedy songs are packed with jokes. But then, that's the difference with a lot of modern comedy music. They ride the balance between being both a good song as well as a funny song, and the repetition of previous themes and lyrics slots in more a pop sensibility than a comedy one. However, speaking of Luke's second verse, that's likely my favorite section of the song. And while we don't get an uh-huh in this song, we get half of one at the end of his verse with a oh. While that doesn't count for the counter, we got two in the last song, so at least we have as many uh-huhs as we do songs so far.
I done seen a lot of people try to pop it and nobody never pop it like that. She said, baby, can you pop it? I said, baby, I can pop it, so I pop it, and she pop it, so I pop it right. Pop, pop, pop.
As the bridge comes in, we are taught how to pop. It's 2 steps. First you pop pop, and then the chorus continues as normal through to the song's end. Great fake out of teaching the dance. Of course, the music video and the short clips they posted on socials before the album dropped gave a better example of what the pop really is.
I don't wanna be the one to give you up just to buy another one. One hit is what I tell my boys, but I take another puff.
Our third music track is another previously released single, and coincidentally, the third single released from this album. For this track, we're treated to a synth-heavy Eurovision-style song about the perils of vaping and not being able to quit. This time around, we get Luke on lead and Vinny takes the chorus, while each trade off taking backing vocals with Peter. That said, this is probably the least joke-heavy song on the album, and while it's good musically, it does leave me wanting more. Just as the song gets going, it's over. Just 2 verses and 2 choruses, then we get a fade out.
And ever since I never left the house without, I panic when I lose it in between the couch. But now I'm giving up, that's it, I quit, I'm out. But let me see it, I wanna see it, cause I really need it.
It's especially noticeable on this song, but actually, all of the tracks on this album don't adhere to the typical 3-beat joke structure of most comedy songs. In a majority of comedy music, you have the introduction of the premise in the first verse, the reinforcement of that structure in the second, and the third establishes an escalation of the joke or sometimes a subversion of the expected resolution. This is also known as the rule of 3 in comedy, but OCT seems to follow more of a pop song structure to their tunes rather than a comedy song structure, opting to go with 2 verses and choruses, with an occasional bridge or final chorus, and having that finish out the song. And while that works with the majority of their songs, this one, for me at least, never quite goes far enough with the premise before it ends. That said, it's still a bop that I get stuck in my head often, and of course it starts out with another uh-huh from Luke right at the top, which makes us 3 for 3 on the uh-huh counter.
Been ducking food courts, I got the sweet green nap. I stopped seeing my Nona, she feeds me too much crap. I asked her for a kiwi, she brings me arancini.
Next up is another brand new song that still has yet to have a music video, but was once again teased in shorts, reels, and TikToks before the album dropped. Meat and Cheese continues the grand tradition of comedy songs about food, and is the first of 3 such songs on this album. This is also the first of 2 tracks on the album that begins with a short sketch that leads directly into the song, which I appreciate. Sometimes there's a certain amount of setup that some songs need, or at least warrant, and the brief caricatures the band plays at the beginning sets up the theme of this song. Here, that's 3 New York Italians opining about their favorite meals, and the common thread, of course, being, well, meat and cheese. This is another great example of each member of the band having a specific role in the song. Luke once again takes the lead vocals, but this time eschews his normal deeper vocals for a bit more of a stereotypical accent. Vinny this time takes the pre-chorus and is the dieter of the song, the one who's actually trying to avoid the meat and cheese. And finally, Peter belts out the chorus, and seems to be having a blast doing it if the repeated shorts he's made of it are any indication.
I sweat through my sheets, full on deli meats. I can't see my knees from all this meat and cheese. If I could quit, I would. My doctor says that I should, but it tastes so fucking good, and I can't live without it.
It's in this chorus that we get our first hint at some more adult language, but Peter censors himself by not fully dropping the F-bomb. In fact, other than this part, and some bleeped expletives by Gary V's appearances, the album plays like a Weird Al record. Very family-friendly, with some limited PG-13 innuendo sprinkled around. My favorite part of the song is the build-up of Vinny's attempts to avoid meat and cheese, culminating with his final collapse into indulgence, perfectly encapsulated in both his lyrics and his triumphant vocal performance.
My blood pressure is rising, cholesterol is climbing, my gut health is declining, but everything's so appetizing.
Sadly, we don't get another aha for the counter, so it seems that, so far at least, they only appear on alternating songs. And while this song once again does not follow the 3-beat structure I mentioned before, its ending does follow a logical through line, given the chorus.
Won't you come on down to a top 12 rated town? There's a Ferris wheel and a Margaritaville. But naked at the swim-up bar, now we're banned from the swim-up bar. And pina coladas.
Next up is the first true collaboration on the album, featuring vocals and writing by another New York-based comedy musician, Kyle Gordon. Last year, just as this single was released, Kyle took OCT on tour with him for a few dates. And this year, OCT is making waves on their own solo tour in both the US and the UK, though for parts of the Midwest, they'll be joined by Kyle and another comedy band, Wolves of Glendale, for a handful of dates they're calling the Comedy Music Roadshow. Sadly, they aren't passing through this song's namesake on the tour, which is a shame, as honestly, despite it being a comedy track, I think this would do wonders for Myrtle Beach's tourism board. We get a great funky wah guitar opening the track, and Kyle actually takes the first verse, setting up the premise of the song. These are 4 divorced dads taking a vacation to the resort area of Myrtle Beach for Labor Day weekend. Playing on both the tourist angle as well as repeated mentions of a divorce none of the 4 guys seem to be over, this is a truly great, funny track. Thematically, it reminds me of both Vaping in Vegas by the aforementioned Wolves of Glendale, as well as Spring Break by The Lonely Island, but it still stands on its own. Honestly, this is just a great track all around, which makes it hard to pinpoint a favorite part. Kyle and Luke both do a great job with splitting the verses, while Vinny and Peter really kill it, sharing the chorus vocals. If I had to pick a part, though, it would likely be Kyle's pre-chorus leading into the second chorus, as there's just too many great divorced dad jokes peppered throughout it.
No, I'm talking about wet hair, fancy jeans, fun t-shirt, and they're missing the sleeves. Break down by the slot machines. I should call my son. Come on. Zach Brown, cover band. Facebook pic of a bucket of clams. My wife's with another man, so that's why we're all here at Myrtle Beach.
Kyle is honestly a great collaborator with the band, and his comedy aesthetic works well within their own. Honestly, I think he's a great choice to play Vinny in Season 2 of the band, which they just announced on their social accounts.
I'm Peter. And I'm Luke. And I'm Vinny Locasto. I'm a member of OCT.
Unfortunately, once again we do not get a full aha for the counter, breaking the alternating streak. However, all is not lost, as Luke's verse opens with a huh. Combining that with the symbol from the middle of his second verse in Pop Pop, and we have one full aha. Just one that took several songs to complete. This is starting to feel like an Easter egg hunt, honestly. This song closes with another of my favorite parts, though it's not really lyrics. Calling out the touristy restaurant of Senior Frogs always gets a laugh out of me, and the final choral, "ah" at the end really tickles my music brain in the best way.
Told me we getting wet tonight, we gon' sweat tonight. So tomorrow you'll be fully refreshed. Why don't you meet me at the bathhouse, homie? Don't wait a second more, leave your stress at the door. Why don't you meet me at the...
Speaking of alternating, we have another new song up next with Bathhouse Homies, a song that initially is about Luke's need to relax, but then turns into the bathhouse being a place to not only de-stress, but one where friends, or homies, can get their feelings out. Sort of like a sweaty therapy session. Firstly, the groove on this song is undeniable, just a danceable, fun track. But as you listen to the lyrics, you realize how ridiculous the premise is, and that's one of the things I love about the track. For those that may not be aware, a bathhouse is generally a communal place where primarily men go for bathing, relaxation, and socializing. But they're also an informal gay meeting place where friends can meet, relax, and have sex with each other. Now, this song slightly plays with that perception by the song's title alone, but turns it on its head by it actually being something more innocent. Some versions like that are what comedy music is founded on, and something that initially seems illicit suddenly being more wholesome is a popular trope in the genre. Honestly, so's the opposite now that I think about it. Here, Luke has tried several relaxation techniques, all to no avail. Working out and even meditating doesn't seem to do the trick, with the lyric, "But sitting crisscross applesauce heightens my frustration," being one of my faves on the entire album. Then he discovers his local bathhouse and decides to invite all his friends along because, as he says, "I got a monthly pass and I'm trying it out. They let me bring a friend, so start drying your towels." And then, as if anticipating the cultural impression a bathhouse can give, he sings the lyric, "'Cause we getting wet tonight, we gonna sweat tonight, so tomorrow you'll be totally refreshed. Why don't you meet me at the bathhouse, homies?" Now, I've chosen to do a dramatic reading of those lyrics rather than playing them to kind of heighten the idea that is this innuendo or not. But right as the listener is wondering, Peter jumps in with the second verse and drops my absolute favorite section of the song that flips it on its head as Luke jumps back in with the chorus.
Tell me something, you ever try? You ever call up your homies and say, "Oh, y'all invited to sweat it out? Come on, let's sweat it out. Trauma dump in the sauna, I wanna see you break down inside the bathhouse, oh man."
Then we're treated to a simple bathhouse sesh bridge, where Peter describes what he expects of his friends there, followed by Vinny doing vocal runs on the final chorus. Honestly, this might be another case of leaving your audience wanting more again, as the rule of three would allow for even more ridiculous enhancing of the concept in the third verse, but as it stands, it still works hilariously well. While the bridge doesn't push it far enough that a third verse might, it's still a satisfying conclusion to the joke. What's remarkable about this song is that prior to the clips we started getting of this song before the album came out, there was another song OCT did on a similar theme that was also teased.
Take a dip in my jacuzzi. Baby, come and take a dip in my jacuzzi with me. Drop my brand new jacuzzi. Baby, what you got to lose? I'll let you use it for free.
Obviously, they couldn't have two songs that were so similarly themed, and I honestly think the one with the better concept won. That's not to say Jacuzzi isn't funny. I really enjoy that clip, and I hope we get a full version. But I think a bathhouse is a more unique route to go, and there's already so many other Jacuzzi comedy songs out there, including one by OCT tourmates, Wolves of Glendale. However, this song does lose one major point with me. No And Jacuzzi had two in that short clip. Starting to feel robbed, honestly. Maybe Jacuzzi should have won after all.
Can't live with it, can't live without. So good going in, but not so good coming out. Late night, I'm microwaving a cold, warm glass of milk.
Luckily, we have another brand new song up next that had only been teased before the album's release, and this time we've got Vinny taking the lead vocals for the first time on the album, and also not the last either. Between the OCT shorts, reels, and TikToks, this song was teased quite a bit. This is the lactose ballad, Tall Warm Glass of Milk. And we've hit, for me, the most relatable subject of a song on the entire album. I also kinda hate this song, but only because I had been working on a song about the very same thing. See, those among us with food allergies, like peanuts or shellfish, can't eat those things at all, or they'll die. But for folks like me and Vinny, who are merely intolerant of lactose, we're more intolerant of our intolerance, as we'll still drink milk or eat cheese and ice cream and only pay for it in the bathroom. And that's what this song, and the one I was working on, explores. First and foremost, Vinny sings his face off on this track, really belting out the 80s style power ballad, with Luke and Peter stepping completely out of the spotlight and handling only the backing vocals. It's evident from jump that this song is Vinny's baby, a thing he feels deeply about, and he's pouring his heart and soul into these lyrics and the performance of the song. The hook is really what sells this song, and every time that chorus comes up, you can't help but sing along. And while lactose intolerance means intolerance of any product that features lactose, the song instead focuses specifically on just milk, and whole milk at that, per the lyrics no skim, no oat, and full fat, full joy. Vinny is not taking any substitutions for his lactose love. As the best comedy songs do, it takes a relatable premise and stretches it out to the extremes. This brings up my favorite line in the whole song. I'll burn this city down for a tall, warm glass of milk. Despite his gastronomical discomfort, he still wishes to guzzle that moo juice, and honestly, I get it. Another line that I really enjoy is, I'll risk it all, I'll take the punch, whole milk for breakfast, lactate for lunch. As it not only shows the lengths Vinny will go to for his love, but also changes up the chorus again, which, as I've said before, is something I enjoy in comedy songs. All that said though, we obviously don't get to add to the counter. However, maybe OCT will release an open verse challenge for this song and allow fans to compose and perform their own verses. I know I'd love the opportunity to drop some bars on this one, and I'd even include the much needed And, of course, this song also takes on a weirder meaning when you consider current political news surrounding milk. And I'm sure that was unintentional. Moving on.
It's a frictionless wipe, and now I'll be here all night. I slide across the one ply like I'm gliding on ice. I had a frictionless wipe, my hand is cramping tonight. I've made a human butt slide, every wipe is not white.
What better way to follow a song about milk not being so good coming out than a full-on song about explosive diarrhea? Frictionless Wipe is not a subtle song, but if you don't mind scatological humor, it's definitely a funny one. This time out, Peter takes the first verse and chorus, while Luke takes the second set and Vinny shows up to belt out the closing chorus. This song is clearly Peter's brainchild too, as the way he kicks off the song really feels like he's singing from experience. And I'm learning more about his bathroom habits, all completely against my will. I have to be honest. The idea of a frictionless wipe didn't make sense to me at first, but it didn't take long for the song to, shall we say, educate me. Wiping when there's still something there for it to slide on? Well, you get the idea. What's interesting here, interesting to me anyway, is that this is not the first time OCT has explored this theme. In fact, before Frictionless Wipe was released, Peter debuted another similar song on their socials called Infinite Poop Glitch, which is apparently the proto-version of this song.
I got the infinite poop glitch. I received the infinite poop glitch. I can't stop wiping my butt
Oh my god, when will it stop?
And while that song is better suited as a short, Frictionless Wipe definitely benefits from having a fully fleshed out song. As a song by itself, it's already very funny, but listening to it with the full album really has a great setup of Tall Warm Glass of Milk leading into this one. Honestly, that's probably my favorite sequencing on the whole album. As I stated before, Peter's verse expertly sets up what a frictionless wipe is, but Luke's verse is really what drives it home. And his entire verse is probably my favorite part of the song, as each successive line is better than the last.
Oh, hit the boot deck, system's overloaded. I pop a squat and then I empty a loaded. Spread my cheeks and unleash an explosion. It doesn't matter if I crumble or fold it, cause it's a frictionless wipe. And now I'll be here all night. I'm numbing both of my thighs. I can't stand for my life cause of this frictionless wipe. My butt's a Sharpie tonight. I glide across the one ply, the croissant of ice.
And of course, as I'm sure you noticed, his verse started with another aha, putting us back on the board with another for the counter. Closing out this song is yet another chance for Vinny to showcase his phenomenal vocal range, and allow me a moment to humbly say I'm sorry here. As when I reacted to the music video, I initially thought those vocals were coming from Grace, not realizing Vinny's voice could go so high. I owe you an apology, Vinny. I wasn't really familiar with your game.
I hope that I help you find an answer.
Morgan J.
My customer service satisfies your needs.
Yeah, I mean, so far I have a couple things I gotta fix though.
But please don't hang up when the call is over. Cause I think that we'd be friends if you knew me.
We're over halfway through the album, and yet now we get a brief break with an interlude called Please Hold, featuring stand-up comedian and occasional comedy musician Morgan J. Both Morgan and OCT were featured on the recent Billboard article Top 15 Musical Comedians Right Now, and since they both operate out of New York, this seemed like a natural pairing. In this track, which has a music video that I never reacted to because it's a bit on the short side, Vinny plays the customer service rep to Morgan's customer, who is calling in to have his Wi-Fi fixed. It's not a very long track, with Vinny suddenly pitching the idea of the two becoming friends after the call.
What can you do to fix my Wi-Fi? What should I do to fix my Wi-Fi? But once you find out I'm a cool and normal guy, we could hang out all the freaking time.
I'm a cool and normal guy is my favorite part of this song. Once again, we have Vinny on lead vocals, with co-lead by Morgan, which relegates Luke and Peter to the backing vocals, making this the second time Vinny has almost an entire song seemingly all to himself. In many of the other songs, they at least split up the sections somewhat equally between the three of them, but here, and again with Tall Warm a Glass of Milk, it's just Vinny on lead. There are songs where Luke takes the lead, but I have to wonder how it would sound if they didn't have Morgan J on this track. Wait a second. I don't have to wonder. Because almost 6 months before the music video for this track dropped, OCT released a short with an early version of this song with different lyrics, and Peter as the customer, though the song is missing any responses from him.
And once you learn that I'm a cool and normal guy, we could hang out all the freaking time, swim in my indoor pool and do cool belly flops, and then watch Blu-rays of RoboCop.
I like the lyric about RoboCop, but using the image of the TV show box set is a weird choice. Especially since they stretched out the original aspect ratio to make it widescreen for this release. Anyway, only a month after they posted that clip, another clip appeared, featuring Peter as the customer service rep and Luke as the customer. Same plot as the final version about needing Wi-Fi, but the music and lyrics are now completely different.
Customer service is just my 9 to 5. What? But on the weekends I'm a regular guy.
Yeah, I just need my Wi-Fi to work.
I like wakeboarding and can bake a nice pie.
Wakeboarding.
Should we be best friends? Hey, let's give it a try. I would like I would like to invite my Wi-Fi you out to work, to lunch.
Honestly, I love when bands do this. It's like a preview into the writing process, because the final version we get is like a combination of the two short versions we got. It also seemingly shows who came up with each version by who sings the lead in each preview clip. Peter and Luke's take seems to be more OCT based by the heavy synth, while Vinny's version has a more bossa nova sound. However, the response elements of Peter and Luke's version are now integrated into Vinny's for the final album version. I think the addition of Morgan J's responses really sells the gag they're trying to express in the short early versions, and his vocals complement Vinny's well. I will say, the album version and the music video version almost give a different ending to the song. On the album, we just get the song ending with a hang-up noise, giving the impression that Morgan is now heading over to the rep's house. The music video, however, much like the two short versions, shows the call getting disconnected, and then Vinny's frustration with almost achieving friendship and human connection. It's kind of tragic in that way. Ironically, this is the only track on the On Company Time album that directly references work. While it appears to be someone speaking with a customer during company hours, they are discussing after-work activities, so it still works thematically, but sadly is the only such track to do so, as far as what the opening sketch sets up anyway. Because of that, and because it's an interlude, it feels as though it should be positioned a bit more to the middle of the album rather than near the end where it is. Oh well. Obviously though, no additional yet again, as Luke and Peter are only represented in the song and the backing vocals.
'Cause I'm a creature of the night. How could she ever love me right when I am only half a man? She's coming over here tonight. To tell the truth, I'm terrified. There's nowhere left to hide the fact that I'm a
After that brief and literal interlude, we're treated to another single released before the album, the fantasy epic that is half horse, half man. This follows the story of the titular centaur and his quest to find love, and wow, this is an absolute banger, both musically and comedically. First and foremost, the jokes are rapid and plentiful, and all of them land. The song is heavy on the horse puns from jump, but also does the trope of not using the specific name for the title character. He's never called a centaur. He is simply half horse, half man. In this hybrid creature's romantic escapades, he meets up with a girl and engages in lovemaking.
cowgirl, of course.
Only to be confronted by the girl's father, who was assumed to not be home, which leads to the father rightfully freaking out about this giant man/horse in his daughter's bed. The father questions if what he's seeing is real, which leads to my favorite section of the song.
She told me, babe, you gotta hide. I told her where I'm half a horse. Her dad opens the door and says, is that a half horse? Laying naked in my daughter's bed. That is a half horse. I said, someone try to help me understand. Oh, my mom's my mom, my dad's a horse. The two of them had intercourse. I'm traumatized by their divorce. That is how I'm horse, half man. I am one half horse, half man. That's what I am. That's what I am.
The way those brilliant lyrics lead into that funky-ass breakdown section is just beautiful. It's my favorite part of the song, and honestly, probably my favorite moment of the whole album. Once again here we have Luke on lead vocals, with Vinny and Peter taking the backing vocals, but they obviously play larger roles in the music video. This is simply, to me anyway, a perfect song. Great concept, brilliant execution, endlessly listenable. it's kind of hard to say really good thing. You can only say it's really good so much. But I do have one tiny issue with it. The name. Yes, I know, I mentioned this in my reaction, but I have an issue with comedy songs that spoil the joke in the title. When you see the name in the music video, or in the album track listing, you are already predisposed to know what to expect. And yes, half horse, half man is said most often in the chorus. But you know what else is said multiple times in the song that doesn't spoil the joke? Half a man. That would work just as well, and let the equine reveal be a surprise. But I don't want to beat a dead horse. I will say, however, as perfect as this song is, I sort of wish the extended spoken word intro from the music video was included on the album version. I think it adds a bit more to the story of our hybrid hero, as well as gives us a bit more of an underlying musical theme. Not to mention, even more horse puns. Alas, we only get an from Luke here, so no full count for the counter.
It's not global warming, it's not access to healthcare, welfare boring, corruption at the top, citizens getting shot, with all that's going on right now's the perfect time for planning TikTok, baby.
Up next is another single released before the album that sadly had no real music video, but had enough clips as shorts and reels, and that's Tik Tok Baby. It was released as a single, but according to a short released after the song, YouTube didn't allow the full video. As the most topical song on the album, I have to admit that this one is an odd inclusion for me, and the fact that it is a topical song is why. See, topical humor has a shorter shelf life than most broader subjects, as they're usually about current events. And oftentimes, if folks missed the song when it was first released, by the time they hear the song on the album, it might be out of date or no longer relevant. And unfortunately, that's true with this song. At least slightly. Tik Tok Baby is about how the US government had, well, shall we say, issues with the app and its security, since it came from China. There was a whole thing where the US government had wanted China to sell TikTok to a US company instead, mostly so that they could control the narrative about what was being posted on the app. And yes, the fact that our government is focused on a social media app rather than, everything else going on. Yeah, there's definitely some dark comedy to be mined from that. And that's exactly what this song does. Luke and Peter split the vocals here again, each taking a verse, where they play US representatives who, despite all their duties, feel the biggest problem they should be working on is banning TikTok. This once again works as a list song, where each of them goes over not only all the other things they should be focusing on, but also all the things on TikTok they have a problem with. And Peter's verse has my favorite of these lists, and some of the best rhymes in the song too.
That's why we call it flagrant propaganda. Dancing to songs by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Cucumber recipes and get ready with me.
All thanks to the Chinese, our biggest problem is TikTok.
The entire song culminates with Luke singing in the final chorus, "We don't make money off of TikTok, baby," truly selling what these representatives feel about the app, and the real reason why they hate it. However, considering how things have changed with TikTok since this song was released, with the US government now not only taking control of the app, but suppressing videos about various, we'll say, atrocities across this nation and others, as well as requiring its users to self-report their whereabouts and gender identity to use it, the very subject of this song is no longer accurate. That said, it's still a good song, despite not being as topical as it was when it was first released, but that's the news cycle for you. Also, I don't really see OCT as being a very politically motivated comedy band. They're here for the jokes and the jams, and that's about as political as their songs get. The unintentional implications of tall, warm glass of milk notwithstanding. This song really seems like a Luke and Peter joint, as we don't really hear Vinny at all, save for the backing vocals. Not even a third chorus belt. And unfortunately, no uh-huh here either. Not even a huh to pair with the from Half Horse, Half Man. This song is also another case of OCT releasing an earlier version, bearing a similar idea on their channels. This time, just as the whole hoopla was starting with the government trying to involve itself in the app, this was released, with Peter taking center stage in the song.
It's got small businesses, influencers, 170 million devoted users, important conversations that are finally heard, but threatens the money of the government's donors. Deep down, I don't really care about that stuff. Deep down, I just like posting silly songs. Deep down, I also like the hoof guy and the dancers. Deep down, I like TikTok cause it's fun. Please don't take my TikTok down.
But whereas that song seems to take a more neutral position on the politics of the situation and skews more toward Gen Alpha being inconvenienced, I like that the final version takes a position by pointing out the ridiculousness of all the things that the representatives should be focusing on rather than an app. Which makes the fact that YouTube wouldn't allow the music video to be posted all the more ironic.
I know that it might sound crazy, but my favorite place on earth is dim sum paradise. And you can live a long life, baby, but you haven't lived until the dim sum paradise. When my favorite part, when they bring the food out on that cute little cart. And everybody knows that you can live a long life, baby, but you haven't lived until the dim sum paradise.
Our penultimate track and final song of the album is the second single of this collection released, and just one of the catchiest tracks ever, Dim Sum Paradise. This is the third of the 3 songs about food on the album. Well, technically fourth if you count Chipotle as being the cause of Frictionless wipe, and it makes for an amazing album closer. Here, Luke takes the lead one final time, singing about his love for one particular ethnic food preparation, saying he doesn't want Italian, Indian, Portuguese, or Greek. He has something tastier in mind, and heads there immediately so that he doesn't miss it. This track in particular paints such a vivid picture of the food, the atmosphere, and the presentation of the meal so well that every time I listen to it, not only am I singing along, but I'm downright craving dim sum. And what they do so brilliantly is they don't really go into specifics of the dishes until the bridge. And even then it's just, they've got dumplings, noodles, and rice, so pass me the sumai. And yet the enthusiasm with which Luke sings about it all, coupled with Peter on backing vocals and Vinny taking the higher harmonies, makes even the unspoken specifics sound appetizing. This is really where OCT excels, making a song so effortlessly catchy while delivering ridiculous lyrics with a genuine enthusiasm is really the hallmark of this entire album, and this anthem to a particular style of Chinese food is the best way to close out the album. It's really in the second verse that everything comes together lyrically, as my favorite section here is just full of great rhymes one after another.
And there's a 30-minute wait, but I'm invited in. Not cause I'm charming, I just came here with my Chinese friends. They told me why, it's crazy here every night. They give you a different menu if they know you are white. And I'm shocked, I put my head down and walk. I take a peek into the kitchen and I see them heating up all the woks. They got pork, it's the best in New York. And of course, they bring my friends their chopsticks and they ask if I want a fork. I said sure.
This song has a great build, only for it to slow down for a moment while Peter delivers a spoken word bridge. Then the beat drops again and that build launches as if it never stopped, with Vinny practically screaming a vocal run over the ending chorus. It's epic. And it all starts with what is, unfortunately, our last aha on the album. But ironically, it's the one that really made us take notice that it was going to be Luke's signature before the album dropped. On Clogs, it was a one-off. But with it appearing again in this, their second single from the album, it meant that we were now on the lookout for it. And now, according to the counter, at the end of the album we have our total. 6.5 ahas over 12 songs. But the album isn't technically over yet. we still have one more track to discuss.
Guys, sit down. I told you, no shenanigans on company time. And what do you fuckers do?
Once again, we have a short sketch where Gary V calls our boys into his office, this time to reprimand them for their shenanigans on company time. He points out a handful of the songs we just listened to as an example of them screwing around, claiming none of those were in the job description. And
I will say though, the album was fire. And now, so are you. You three are fired.
Guys, Gary V thinks we're fired.
No, I mean you're fired.
honestly, this little verbal misunderstanding is very funny, with our guys just missing the point, and I appreciate this sketch much more than the opening one. It just showcases how fun these guys are, even practically gushing at not only Gary's recognition of their songs, but that he actually enjoyed them. Only to miss the fact that the song's very existence is the reason they're now unemployed. It's short, it's simple, it's to the point, and it's a very funny way to close out the album. So, final thoughts. While I think it's obvious that I like this album, I have to say that I think this is one of the most impressive debut comedy music albums I've ever heard. Each track is undeniably catchy, and while some are better than others, there are no bad tracks in the bunch, making the whole album endlessly re-listenable. I really think OCT has found the secret sauce between making good pop songs and making good funny songs. None of the tracks overstay their welcome, and many actually leave you wanting more. It's no wonder that during their first year making singles, they were featured on Billboard's Top 15 Musical Comedians Right Now list, a fact that I am both proud of them for and also insanely jealous of. However, if I were to have any criticism of the album, it would be in the sequencing. I know starting off the album with their first single and first hit, Clogs, makes technical sense, as that's what many artists do, but I feel that Pop Pop is actually the stronger opener, especially since it begins with the phrase, "Hey OCT, can we pop it?" which serves to introduce the band to us after the opening sketch. I'd likely switch the position of Pop Pop and Clogs. I'd also probably move the interlude more towards the middle of the album, as I said before, making it more of an intermission break, placing it somewhere around track 7 or 8. However, I would not break up Frictionless Wipe from following Tall Warm Glass of Milk. That's just too genius. Finally, because it's so topical, personally I'd remove Tik Tok Baby from the track listing and replace it with another song. Unless you regularly do political or topical humor, songs like that have a shelf life should probably be relegated to just single releases, or maybe inclusion on a rarities or B-side collection. Including something like On Company Time, which I mentioned at the beginning of this review, or even Work Is Making Me Work, another short song they released early on, would help strengthen the idea of the opening sketch proposes that this album was written on company time.
Work is making me go back to work. I really don't wanna do that, you see. I don't wanna pay for lunch when I own groceries. And I like the fact that neck down I'm a mystery.
That said, however, the band has said they are considering releasing a deluxe edition of the album, with bonus tracks, and I'm very much looking forward to that. A handful of tracks that they've released as shorts, such as the ones I've mentioned here, have been suggested for inclusion, as have one of my favorites, their song about Red Dead Redemption 2.
Because I got on new boots and a clean cut and a whistle for my horse and saddle up. Got my mask on, I'm holding up a train. There's nothing I wouldn't do for the Manderlin gang.
They also have a brand new song that they've been teasing in shorts and reels called Hug Somebody that I hear makes an appearance in their live show, but I think that one is so new, it should probably be held on to until they release it as a single and then include it on their next eventual album. If anything, they should at least include the music video version of Half Horse, Half Man with the extended intro. Now, these are all merely suggestions, of course, as to what I'd like to see on the deluxe edition, but I'm sure OCT will do what they feel is best for their release. Still, Let me know what you'd like to see on a deluxe edition of the album down in the comments. Full versions of some of the songs I mentioned, or maybe some that I missed, like the Battle Pass song? Feel free to let the band know below. Who knows? They might check it out. Regardless, thank you for joining me today for this in-depth track-by-track review of On Company Time, the debut album by comedy band OCT. If you like this sort of thing, please like, share, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things to feed the algorithm and get more eyeballs onto these videos. And let me know if you want to see more deep dives like this. Of course, if you want to really help the channel out like these fine folks over here do, then you can support me on Patreon, where you can get these videos early, my own comedy music early, and other cool perks like that. Anyway, that's all for this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Oh, when I was younger, always had a doggy for a pet. I had no cats 'cause I don't think they were in